Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep into what is, you could argue it's the most persistent challenge in the modern economy.
Extreme supply chain volatility.
Exactly. These disruptions, from natural disasters to geopolitical shocks, they aren't black swan events anymore. They're just the new baseline.
That's the mindset shift right there. The whole global supply chain is so complex, so interconnected, that the old risk management playbooks are, well, they're basically obsolete.
A small shock somewhere creates these huge ripples everywhere else.
Huge, nonlinear ripples. A labor dispute at one critical port can cause chaos on a global scale.
And today we're going to hyper-focus on a really high-stakes scenario, the kind that keeps supply chain execs awake at night.
The perfect storm.
A major port strike. But, and this is the key, not just any time, we're talking about it happening right during the peak Lunar New Year trade window.
That combination is just toxic.
It is. And companies are desperate for a shortcut, a way to anticipate and, mitigate these failures. The knowledge we've extracted, it all points to one thing: Causal AI.
And what's fascinating here is that we're moving beyond just simple forecasting.
Right.
The goal of this deep dive is to really understand how causal AI takes the guesswork out of preparing for this specific perfect storm scenario. It's about making resilience an engineered feature, not just a goal.
So why should you care about this? Because understanding the difference between correlation and causation in this chaos and the tools used to manage it, that's the fastest way to get ahead of the curve. Let's start with the scenario itself. A port strike during the Lunar New Year surge. Why is that specific combination so uniquely catastrophic?
It's the nonlinearity. The system is already running at, 110% capacity? A single failure, like a strike, pushes everything past its tipping point.
And the Lunar New Year just pours gasoline on that fire.
It exponentially worsens it. You have to understand the LNY pressure cooker.
Yeah.
This is the highest volume shipping period in the world, especially out of Asia.
Our sources really stress that. The whole system is front-loading orders for weeks.
Absolutely. Factories, ports, they're all at maximum capacity, just trying to get inventory out the door before everything shuts down for the holiday.
So a strike during that window isn't just a delay.
No, you're essentially damming a river at peak flow. You're stopping the critical mass of global inventory right when it needs to move.
So if that movement is choked off, what happens to the supply chain's buffers?
The buffers just vanish instantly. The first reaction is panic, but the systemic result is, it's the immediate depletion of everything.
So we're talking about massive delays, production schedule.
Production schedules are shot for months, well into the next quarter. Get inventory shortages that hit Q1, Q2 sales. Customer dissatisfaction goes through the roof.
And the hidden costs.
Oh, the operational costs just explode. Suddenly you're paying for emergency air freight, rerouting ships to smaller, less efficient ports. It's a financial nightmare.
It sounds like a perfect storm because you have hundreds of these variables all interacting. Labor talks, weather, consumer demand shifts. But wait, haven't we been doing what-if scenarios for decades with standard simulation tools?
That's a great question.
Why isn't that enough? Is Causal AI just a rebrand of something we already have?
It's a totally fair challenge. But the fundamental reason standard simulation fails here is something called unobserved confounders.
Okay, what does that mean in plain English?
A traditional model is great at correlation. It can tell you that when union talks break down, shipment volume usually drops by, say, 10%. But it can't see an external variable that's secretly driving both of those things.
Can you give us a supply chain example? Something correlation would miss.
Sure. Okay, so imagine a big port strike is looming. At the same time, you're getting a spike in defective parts from a key supplier.
A traditional model might link those. It might assume the supplier is rushing because of the strike.
Exactly. It sees a correlation. But causal AI might uncover the true cause. It might find that a recent decision to change the transport route for that supplier, to cut costs, expose the parts to higher temperatures.
So that caused the defects, completely independent of the strike.
Precisely. Correlation just sees two things happening at once. Causal AI builds a map of the why. It identifies the actual levers of influence in the system.
That is a powerful distinction. You're not just mapping that things happen together, but why they happen.
That's it in a nutshell. Its whole focus is understanding those cause and effect relationships. It lets us move beyond simple pattern recognition. So for an LNY port strike, it's analyzing historical data, yes, but also real-time news sentiment, geopolitical updates, labor conditions.
So the output isn't just a prediction like a strike is 80% likely.
No, it's about modeling interventions. It tells you not just what will happen if the strike lasts 3 weeks, but what would happen if you intervened. What if you rerouted 20% of your volume? It would factor in all the secondary costs and delays of that new route.
That ability to model the counterfactual, what would have happened, that's the superpower.
It is. It lets you identify the real drivers of disruption and build contingency plans that are targeted and accurate, not just broad and expensive.
Okay, that brings us right to the practical side. Here's where it gets really interesting. Once we know correlation isn't enough, how do we actually put causation to work? Let's break down the 4 specific ways causal AI helps plan for this LNY strike scenario.
Let's do it. The first one is modeling the downstream impact. And this is about more than just simpler shipment delays.
It's simulating the consequences, I get that, but what specific dependencies does it help you prioritize?
It pinpoints the most critical ones. So for instance, the AI might show that your highest volume supplier is actually pretty resilient, but a smaller supplier, one who makes a unique component with no alternatives, that's your real bottleneck.
So it finds the weakest link.
The weakest link in the chain. It identifies that one vulnerable shipping route or that one supplier with no inventory buffer. So you can focus your response there on that single point of failure instead of trying to fix the whole network at once.
That's a huge strategic insight. You shift from focusing on volume to focusing on vulnerability. Okay, so the second application builds on that, identifying key drivers and amplifiers of disruption.
Right. The strike is the obvious problem, but the AI is digging for those hidden amplifiers.
What's an example of an amplifier?
Let's say your team is planning based on the labor negotiation timeline. Causal AI might run a simulation and find that the real catastrophe isn't the length of the strike itself. It's a new, seemingly minor customs regulation that goes into effect 2 weeks later.
And the combination of the strike and that regulation makes any rerouting efforts impossible.
Or prohibitively expensive. That policy change, the amplifier, becomes the true root cause of the long-term pain.
So you're saying true resilience comes from seeing how things interact, not just looking at isolated events.
Exactly. And that holistic view is what enables the third point, which is the only truly effective way to plan. Simulating multiple scenarios.
Right.
Running the counterfactuals.
Exploring the full range of possibilities.
You have to. You run simulations with different variables. What if the strike lasts 3 days? What if it lasts 3 weeks? What if consumer demand suddenly shifts during the LNY period?
Can you give us a specific example where a simulation like this reveals something counterintuitive?
Sure. Let's take preemptive inventory buildup. Common sense says if a strike is coming, you just maximize your inventory beforehand. Right.
Seems logical.
But the causal AI might model a scenario where building up inventory too early actually locks up critical warehouse space. Space that you will desperately need after the strike to handle the backlog of incoming goods.
So your solution actually creates a second expensive bottleneck down the line.
Exactly. The AI might suggest a more balanced, staggered inventory strategy. It just turns that conventional wisdom on its head.
And the final application has to be the most critical. What happens when the chaos is already here? Optimizing responses with real-time data.
This is where the model really earns its keep. The second a strike begins, the AI integrates with every real-time data stream you have. Shipment tracking, port activity reports, even social media sentiment about labor talks.
And the speed is what matters.
The speed is everything. If a negotiator walks out of a room, the causal graph updates instantly. It might provide an insight that changes a rerouting decision you made 5 minutes earlier.
So it's not just a pre-plan. It's dynamically suggesting alternative routes or backup suppliers. How fast can it weigh the trade-offs, like speed versus cost?
It's making those adjustments minute by minute. Instead of a static plan, the AI is giving you the optimal move right now. You might say, if you reroute this container, it'll arrive 2 days sooner, but customs clearance time at port B just jumped by 48 hours. Therefore, staying the course is now the better option. It quantifies that trade-off for you instantly.
And that level of clarity has to improve communication. You can tell your customers and partners exactly why a decision was made.
It reduces uncertainty for everyone in the ecosystem.
So what does this all mean? We've gone through the complexity of the scenario, the mechanics of causal AI. What does this mean for a business leader facing all this volatility? What are the core takeaways?
The benefits are profound. I mean, they really shift the nature of making decisions when you're under pressure.
Okay, so the first one has to be drastically improved decision-making.
It's not just a better guess. It's making decisions based on quantified causality. You understand the interactions, you've run the what-if scenarios. It gives leaders a kind of data-driven confidence. It turns a high-stakes gamble into an informed choice.
And tied right into that is the second benefit, proactive risk management.
Absolutely. The system lets you see potential problems far in advance so you can take genuinely preventive measures. Maybe the AI's predictions about an amplifier lead you to secure extra warehouse space 6 months early instead of scrambling for it when the strike hits.
That's moving from reactive to proactive. What about the third advantage we saw in the simulations? Resource optimization.
Yes. The AI tells you precisely where to put your money for the maximum defensive effect. Remember our example. Sometimes the best move is to focus all your resources on securing one niche supplier, not spreading them thinly across your biggest ports.
It's surgical, not scattershot.
That's a perfect way to put it. And finally, all of this adds up to increased organizational agility.
Which is the definition of modern resilience.
It is. Being able to run these complex simulations quickly and then adjust your strategy on the fly based on real-time data, it means your company stays adaptive. It's not about avoiding disruption, because you can't.
Yeah.
It's about responding faster and smarter than everyone else.
So as global supply chains face this, just this mounting volatility, this ability to plan for disruption is no longer a competitive edge. It's really a baseline requirement for survival. Causal AI offers a powerful framework for building that resilience by mapping out cause and effect.
And look, absolute certainty is always going to be out of reach. But causal AI fundamentally shifts risk management. It moves it from reactive problem solving, mopping up after the flood, to proactive system design. So here's the thought I want to leave you with. If knowing the true cause and effect relationships lets you simulate and prepare for the worst case scenario, optimizing your response down to the hour, what new level of resilience is now required and frankly expected of modern business leaders? This knowledge ensures companies are just better prepared to handle whatever the future holds, transforming chaos into a quantified, manageable risk.